So this here is an old gaming PC. In terms of the CPU, we have a i7 920 quad-core CPU. I believe that's the first generation of i7s. In this wonderful ASUS motherboard here, quite a big boy. Used to be one of the top motherboards that you could buy. And then over here we have 24 gigs of triple channel DDR3 1600 megahertz RAM. Used to be some of the best you could buy. HyperX. This is probably the newest part in this computer. It's old, but it's not as old as the rest. This is a GTX 962 gigabyte. We have a 500 watt Hunt-Key power supply, 550 watt, just a standard power supply there. We have a little 64 gig SSD Kingston, standard hard drive, 2 terabyte for storage. Then we have the Cooler Master CM Storm chassis here. This used to be quite a beast back in the day. Full tower, huge case, quite nice looking. And yeah, we're going to assemble all these parts and we're going to build an old PC. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Let's get to building it. Stay with me. Okay, so here we are, PC all set up, ready to test, ready to do some benchmarks. And yeah, for this one we're going to do a few different benchmarks. This is an older PC than I usually build and test, so we're going to do some benchmarks that I wouldn't usually do, but you know, I have to adapt the benchmarks to the computer. The thought is that if you build an older computer like this with a first gen i7 and a 960 and you know however much RAM, you probably aren't going to play the newest games. You're probably going to be more into you know, esports kind of games with you know, just competitive kind of games that are easier to run, that you will get decent frame rates at. So I'm going to be testing Counter-Strike Go, of course. I'm going to be testing Dirt Showdown, Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, Rainbow Six Siege, because these are all games that are a little bit older but are still relevant today. And then we're going to do the usual Hitman 1, we're going to do Far Cry, maybe, not sure. Definitely going to do Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Doom Annihilation. No, it's not Annihilation, that's the movie. What's it called? Doom... What was it? Eternal. Doom Eternal, maybe. So let's see how it goes. That's a lot of tests. Don't want to take too long on this. So definitely going to do those ones from Steam, and we'll see about the rest. So yeah, stick with me. Let's benchmark it. Okay, so starting out with some Counter-Strike Go. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't work with my MSI Afterburner software. I'm not exactly sure why, but yeah, let me just tune that a little bit. But yeah, I'm still gonna try it out, and let's see how it does. So right now the PC is running at 100 FPS. This is running on maximum settings on HD. There does seem to be a little bit of lag, not lag really, but more like lag spikes, and it's not perfect, but it for the most part it's above 100. Sorry, I haven't played this game in a really long time. Just shot my own teammate there. Nice. Oh, that was pretty easy. I'm gonna try another round. Yeah, it's remaining at around 90 to 120, so it's doing pretty well. Just do a classic AK build. Around 100 now, but then when you get into contact with enemies, there's a little bit of a lag spike, and it drops to about like 75. I don't even really remember how to play this game. It's at 170 now, which is really high. Oh, that was terrible. So 145, 100, and yeah, it's doing well. It's it doesn't really, it never really goes below 70, and it only went to 70 once. So this is more than playable for Counter-Strike at maximum graphics. If you're looking for something that will play something like this, competitive esports kind of titles like Counter-Strike, Valorant, Rocket League, those kinds of games, even Siege to an extent, at a really high frame rate, above 100 or around 100, that kind of frame rate, this is a good option. This PC isn't expensive to build because it's mostly cheaper parts. You know, 960 you could probably get for like $50 now. A CPU, motherboard and RAM like this you could probably get for $100. So for like $250 for the whole system, you could build something that you could play these kinds of games with. And yeah, it's very affordable, and this runs really well. Let's do one last round here, and then we'll move on to to the next game, which will probably be Siege. I want to see if it goes below 70 at all. Damn, I am not good. Oh my word. Okay, that's it for Counter-Strike. As you can see, I haven't played in a long time, really terrible. So yeah, let's move on to Siege. Let's do it. Okay, getting into the Rainbow Six Siege benchmark here. Running at about 80 FPS right now, 100 now. The GPU is at around 60 degrees, so this old Cooler Master CM Storm case is doing a good job of cooling it. The CPU is a little bit hotter, but it does have the stock CPU cooler there. It's at around 90, and the CPU does run hot. And then the GPU usage is at around 100%, and the CPU usage is around 60%. So we are a little bit capped at the GPU. It's pulling around 75 watts on the GPU there, and yeah, the FPS is still pretty good. Doesn't really drop below 50, I don't think. Getting around 80 still, 90 now, so it's 75 and up more or less. It's a pretty good result. This is medium on HD on Siege. It's a much newer game, so not a bad result. Let's see the average, probably around like 80. Maybe a little bit lower than 80. Okay, 84 average over there. The GPU load is pretty high. The VRAM on the GPU is pretty high, and that's because this only has 2 gigs of VRAM. In terms of RAM, only using around 3 gigs of the available 24 gigs that we have there. Yeah, CPU using about 60% of it. So we are bottlenecked in terms of the GPU. So if you have it on hand, I would recommend something like a GTX 980 Ti for this. You don't want to go 10 series really, because the CPU is so old. So I would recommend like top class 9th gen NVIDIA GPU, or even something like an RX 580 4 to 8 gig might work really well with this as well. Okay, with that said, let's move on to the next one. Alright, so this is Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, and yeah, I haven't played this in many years. It's a good looking game, even now. It looks solid. It's running at 60 FPS. It seems to be capped. I don't know if it's VSync. I don't think VSync is on. But yeah, this is running extremely well. So I don't really remember how to play this, but I'm just running around, just looking at things. And yeah, I guess when this came out, this was quite a powerful PC. This is a good looking game. I don't know how old this is, but it's definitely over 5 years old at this point. Is he gonna see me? I guess that was unnecessary.
Contact me if you need advice.
I'm just gonna shoot a little bit and just see how it does.
So your suppressor is worn out. That gun won't be as loud as any other now. If you have to shoot, be careful.
Yeah, this doesn't really seem to be dropping below 60 at all. And it looks really good. I think this looks amazing.
What's up?
And yeah, not really dropping below 60, so I'm pretty happy. Yeah, really good result. I don't know how well you can see it, but yeah, it doesn't really seem to be dropping below 60. GPU is pulling around 70 watts there. It's about 60% usage. CPU is at about 40% usage, so this game is a little bit too old maybe for this PC. It's a little bit under what the PC can do. CPU is pretty hot. It's like at like 80 to 90. It's not too bad because this is like an older i7, so they did run hot. Using about 6 gigs of RAM, that's quite a lot for a game like this. And yeah, 16 millisecond response time there, 60 FPS. It's not dropping below that 60 at all. This is at high settings HD, so very good results. Let's move on to the next one.
Welcome to Joyride, a playground full of missions and tricks.
Okay, getting into Dirt Showdown here. So this is a bit of an older game, but this game was pretty relevant when this PC, when this graphics card was launched. So I just want to check out how it does. This game still looks pretty good, really, like compared to games that comes out now. It's not bad looking. It's not that far behind. It doesn't have like that super fidelity or, you know, the post-processing effects that we have now, but you know, it's pretty good looking. And this is running well. This is running at 133 FPS. This is HD Ultra right now, so it's definitely maxed out. And yeah, it's good looking. It does well. Not much to complain about. It's running at like 130 for the most part, so even close to that 144 mark. So really good result. Doesn't make you a good driver though. This car is messed up. Yeah, just you know, if you want to play some older games, if you want to get into Counter-Strike, esports titles, older racing games like this, even newer ones would be able to run pretty well on like medium, like New Need for Speeds or whatever. You can definitely do that. And looking at the temperatures, the GPU is getting a little bit hotter now. It is almost maxed out in terms of usage, but I mean, this result is fantastic. It's like 150 frames now. It's pulling 100 watts, that's a lot. But this is a game that came out around the time that this GPU was like really relevant. Oh, a little bit of a lag spike there. And yeah, the CPU is a little bit hot right now. So we're starting to get a few lag spikes. But yeah, it's only using around a gig of graphic memory. It's using around 6 gigs of RAM, which is quite a lot. Yeah, really low response time there, really high frame rate, 150. It's probably averaging like 130. So yeah, this is the kind of game that this PC is going to run really well. So if you are gaming on a budget like $250, you could play something like this really easily, and it looks pretty good. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Alright, getting into the Hitman Benchmark here, and off the bat not too bad. The graphics are at like medium to low. I think it's low texture settings, but everything else is at medium, and this is running natively at HD, using around like 90 to 100% of the CPU, using around 95% of the GPU. So this is a lot more intensive on the computer, but it's a good result. I mean, it's at 100 FPS, 60 to 100 for the most part, using a little bit more RAM, around 8 gigs of RAM. And yeah, it's stressing the PC a little bit more. The GPU is still around 80 to 100 watts. But the frame rate is pretty good. I'm actually kind of impressed with how good the frame rate is. I thought this was going to struggle, but I think this is such a sweet spot for budget gaming, this computer, because it's older parts, but it used to be really strong parts. You know, and if you throw something like a 980 Ti in this, you'll be good for another while. Looking at the FPS in the enclosed areas, it's pretty high. It's like 80 to 100 around there, using 8.5 gigs of RAM still. CPU is a little bit hot, but this, like I said, this CPU does run hot. Yeah, using all of the available VRAM really. But yeah, it's a good result. The GPU is getting hotter as well. And everything is just working hard right now, but it's producing a really passable result, and this looks nice even now. You can see it on the screen there. It looks pretty good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. Really not too bad. You could probably push medium as well, medium high. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, getting into the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark here. And right off the bat, this is looking to be maybe a little bit too much for this computer, running at about 30 FPS. It's going up a little bit, and in terms of CPU and memory and GPU usage, GPU is working hard, and a game like this is going to make you notice that lack of VRAM, because this card only has 2 gigs of VRAM. But that CPU is not doing too much. It's only pegged at around 50 to 60% for the most part, and this game is using around 10 gigs of RAM. That's actually quite a lot. In terms of performance, it's staying at that console level of like 30 to 50, around there. And this is running at medium HD, so you know, if you take it too low, you'll easily get that 60 FPS result, but it just looks bad. And this has post-processing on for the most part now, in terms of some things, but yeah, I just feel like you need to have a little bit of post-processing. So this is playable. It's not extremely fast, but it's definitely playable. Yeah, it is what it is. This is a new game. This game is kind of hard to run, but you know, you can choose to either run at 40 FPS or switch down the graphics and run it like 60. That's really up to you. Usually we see a lot of pop in here, but because we have fast DDR3 RAM as far as DDR3 goes, and a lot of it, we didn't really see any popping, so that's kind of nice. Still, the CPU is not working as hard as it should be because the GPU is bottlenecking so much. GPU is just pegged at 100%, so yeah, you'll get a big FPS increase if you just lower the settings a little bit and turn off that post-processing. But I feel like this is a playable result. It's probably averaging around like 40 something, maybe like low 40s, so yeah, it's really up to you how you would approach this, but definitely an acceptable result for how much, you know, this PC was and how much it costs to assemble. We'll call this a low-grade console kind of experience, but on PC you can change it. You don't have to. If you are unhappy with the frame rate, you just lower the settings. So yeah, it looks quite nice, even on medium, and yeah, I would say it's playable. So still running around 10 gigs of RAM, and GPU is working hard, CPU not so much. Let's see the average result there. It's probably going to be like 38, 39, 40, around there. It is 38. If you check over there, it might be a little too small to really see, and yeah, pretty good result, but a little bit GPU bottlenecked in this one. So yeah, like I said, up to you how you would approach that situation. That's going to be it for the benchmarks. Let's take a look at the PC and discuss it, and yeah, let's finish off the video. Okay, so to finish off the video, let's just talk a little bit about this computer. This is a big chassis. I'm a really big guy, and this is about the size of my upper body, so it's a big thing. It's heavy. It has a nice handle there to carry it, and obviously you don't have to use a chassis like this when you build a computer like this, but you know, it works because it fills up the space nicely. It has quite a big motherboard, full-size ATX motherboard. You know, it's a little bit older, so it still has that IDE port over there. It has things like eSATA, things you don't really see anymore. But it's a good-looking chassis for a build like this, because it's era appropriate. This chassis is about, like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 7 years old. This motherboard is about 10 years old. more, maybe 12. And same with the CPU. So I think it looks nice the way that it is. This chassis has so many spaces for hard drives. It has the DVD-ROM at the top. It has like 6 or 7 spaces for hard drives. It has and then those hard drive bays double as SSD bays if you want that. You know, this is an older computer, and it's kind of amazing that it still plays today's games. Like I said in the video a couple times, if you swap out this GPU for the high-end 9th gen stuff, like a 970 or a 980 Ti, maybe even a Titan, it would still be really good. It would still run HD games at high. And you know, looking at the benchmarks that we did, it performed quite well. And so there becomes a question of, if you are in the market for gaming on a budget, and you have the option of buying a Ryzen APU, let's say something like a 3rd gen APU for, you know, you get that with a motherboard and RAM, maybe 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, let's just say slow-ish DDR4 RAM, 266 megahertz RAM, and it costs you, let's just say $300 for like a cheap kit, and you get a cheap case for $60, and you get your hard drive, you get your SSD, and you leave out the graphics card. That's going to be around $400 to build, and it's going to perform worse than this. Now, of course, it's new, you get your warranties, you can put in a graphics card, you know, you can put in like an RX 580, 570, you can put in a 1060, 1070, and you would be, you know, that would be a lot more performant than this. But this would cost something like, let's just do the price quick, because I don't really know exactly what it's worth, but this is all secondhand, it's all old. So you would pay for, if you were to buy the motherboard, RAM and CPU as a combo, you would pay something like at the most $200, and that's if it's expensive. This GPU you could get for like $50, $60. The power supply and the case you could get for like $100 secondhand. That's like $350, something like that. And then, you know, with the hard drives, let's just make it $400. So, you know, choosing between that kind of APU system and this kind of system is a difficult choice to make, because this isn't as upgradable. Obviously you can put in a new graphics card, it's going to perform better, but it's not new, you don't get those warranties, but you do get more performance. And I'm quite happy with this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might sell it, but I'm not sure yet. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy. I think it did well in the tests. Didn't expect it to, you know, run everything at full, you know, maximum ultra settings. But, you know, with the Dirt racing game, that game is about 10 years old, Showdown, it ran that at ultra at 150 FPS. So, you know, Counter-Strike, Valorant, Rocket League, all the racing games, you still can get an amazing amount of performance out of a system like this. And, you know, there's a lot of old parts floating around similar to this. So all I'm saying is, do yourself a favor and take a look if you're in the market for a cheap second-hand system. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. And yeah, see you again. Cheers.